Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that's hoping we don't die when we're 50. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Fridays, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
You already died, Aaron.
It's true. I did that one. I've done that twice, actually.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and his house needs its third new door this month. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I am Groot.
Each week, we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. She promises she's screaming at something behind you. It's not you. It's Susan Comyab Stevens. Great to have you, Susan. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
How's stuff in your world? How's life? How's stuff going?
Stuff is good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's
good.
awesome. Well, it's great to have you back. We're always excited to have you on to talk about movies and to see exactly what you thought of movies, because we just sound like idiots most of the time, and it's nice to have somebody on who sounds like they know what they're talking about.
I do most of the heavy lifting on the sounding like an idiot, but yeah, sure.
Fair enough.
No, I always enjoy coming on.
Good. Well, we've got a big movie from Disney, and then a movie they tried to hide from us. So we'll get to both of them. But let's kick it off with taking a look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Peter Quill, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally his team around him to defend the universe along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, as indicated in the title, is the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie in the MCU.
Fourth.
Brought to us. No, it's the third movie.
Third. Oh, are you counting the
Christmas
The
special?
Christmas special. So, which, strangely enough, pretty vital to understanding what things going on in this movie. But yes, James Gunn bringing it to us once again. Kind of a swan song from Mr. Gunn.
Yeah.
Because he will be taking over DC, shepherding that universe and seeing where that's going. But this was kind of his final entry into the MCU. So what did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, you start.
One of my least favorite MCU films. I did not like it.
Did not like it. Susan, what about you? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was it just okay?
Loved it.
Hey!
I'll just step back and let you two fight it out.
No. Where you at, Aaron? Where you at?
On this one, I am firmly in the high side of liked it. I don't think I can quite cross over into loved it, but really did have a blast with it. Susan, you enjoyed it the most, so tell us a little bit about why you liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I mean, I thought it was so emotional. Like, I cried. So I don't think I've cried that much in a Marvel movie since Endgame. But I actually really enjoyed Rocket's backstory. Though it was kind of a tough watch, I thought it explained him so well. And I think my favorite thing was just this movie really showed the bond that these band of misfits have for each other, and that's what makes them so special, because like out of all the Marvel universe, they feel the most like family because they're each other's chosen family. So I really love seeing that displayed, and I just felt the like emotion and heart of all the characters. So I don't know, and it felt like a really good goodbye. I thought it was still funny, but I like the story. I know there are mixed reviews. I know that some people feel like there's inconsistencies with the storyline, but I guess I just wasn't bothered by it because I was so wrapped up with like this goodbye by the Guardians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with the emotion of it with you. I wasn't expecting as many emotional beats as there were, because there are a lot. There is like James Gunn was like, I'm gonna find every single heartstring you have, and I'm gonna tug as hard as I can and see if I can make your eyes water. And some were more successful than others for me. But there were a few moments where I genuinely was moved. And I think that's a really tough thing to do when your tone is off the wall, ridiculous, so there's a lot of silliness, a lot of spectacle. And yet somehow there were just those moments where I was just like, aw, but then the thing, and he feels like it's because this happened to him, and now he has his redemption, and I don't know what's going. So like like there's a real impact that it has. So yeah, the emotion of it was a really big one for me. And I think you mentioned this as well. I just like hanging out with these people. Like I really enjoy hanging out with this crew, and that's a lot of fun for me. So the movie's going to be a fun experience. Now, as to whether or not it delivers on, story or message or themes or those kind of things are different questions. But to just go sit in a theater for over 2 hours and hang out with this group, like, I mean, that's, you're starting, at least I am starting from a baseline of fun, right?
Yeah.
And then you can either go up or down from there. So yeah. Andrew, some thoughts?
I want to talk about what you guys brought up, and it's the emotional thing. And I did like the emotion. However, if I was directing this movie, I would take everything that has to do with Rocket and his backstory and cut it out and turn it into its own full movie. I don't think that this should be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think this should be a Rocket origin story. Don't have anything to do. Hey, Aaron, you hush over there. I see you in your face. No, you take this and you don't make it a Guardians movie. You make a full-fledged Rocket origin film with him going through everything, dealing with, the High Evolutionary, and then, all of his friends that he met and how terrifyingly adorable they are. And then after that, you can have your final Guardians film where it's present day now and they're going after the High Evolutionary for what he did to Rocket and stuff. Because my big issue with this movie is the inconsistency in its tone. Whenever we're doing these things with Rocket, we're going back and we're looking at how adorable and honestly just truly terrifying his life was before he met Groot and Drax and Quill and Gamora and Nebula and everybody. And then the next scene, you have them going to a living facility, and you have Nathan Fillion in a big old bubble skin suit, and it's just goofy. And it's so inconsistent, the tone in this movie. I will say, though, my biggest pro for this movie, it's Chuck Woody who is playing the High Evolutionary. It's such an inspired villain. I think it's one of the most, if not the most twisted villains the MCU has ever given us. I just wish his character felt a little bit more consistent, because he could have easily been my favorite MCU villain if he was utilized properly.
Andrew, it has been a long time since I have disagreed with you more than I disagree with you right now. I'm to the point where I don't even understand the concept of what you're like. You say things like, I wish this was this thing. And I'm like, It is this thing. Like,
But
what are
it's
we talking?
not.
It is
They're
a
both-
rocket origin story.
No,
it is
they're
a
both
rocket.
halves. They're
They
both half
aren't.
of what they need to be. They're
See,
both half of what they need to be.
I completely disagree. This
Yeah.
movie is a rocket origin story, and it's a beautiful one. The other
No,
stuff
they're
are just
appetizers for both.
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by appetizers? Let me understand.
They're not full meals. They're just appetizers. They're the
I
Guardians.
think we
like,
got a full meal out of it.
No,
I certainly
everything
did.
no. I think that there could have been a full hour and a half movie dealing only with Rocket, only
That's
in the
what this
past.
is.
Will
This
you?
is-
No, there is like
Do you
half
not
of this
want any
movie.
other characters in this rocket movie? What are we
No.
talking about?
No, I'm
I
talking
don't
about
think
I'm
we
talking
need-
about anything in modern time. I don't want anything in like the modern timeline. I want to go back to when Rocket was a baby and just have a full movie, kind of like I don't know.
No.
How
I
about
don't
Logan? Logan has his own movies in the out of all the X-Men. I want a
Uh-huh.
Rocket movie.
I don't think that would have succeeded as well as
Oh.
like
Yeah,
I
that
really
would have
don't.
been-
I think that it's just like the second movie was essentially more of like a Peter Quill kind of thing because we're
Mhm.
learning about his backstory with his dad and like all that stuff, and it didn't affect it. I mean, Rocket is part of the Guardians. And I don't think I want to see like 2 hours of just Rocket being tortured and his friends like knowing. I mean, I knew where this was headed with his friends, so it's like I feel like that being placed in this movie, that was actually my saving grace. Like the whole time I was watching, it's like he has a family, he has a good group of friends. Thank God we keep getting reminded.
Yeah, there's
of that.
no better way to tell his origin story than
Right.
the
No,
way it's
you
told
guys
in
are
this
And,
movie.
100%
and the whole
Because you
time
can't-
they're
you-
trying to save him. So
Exactly.
you're like,
Exactly.
thank God.
You cannot get the same emotional impact because his origin story revolves around the bookends of what's going on with his, found family. And like the themes don't work. Nothing works if you strip away the other stuff and just go back in time.
Could not
So-
disagree more. Could not.
How would that movie end? I mean, essentially,
It's-
that movie.
You
would
guys are
end
afraid
with
to live in the
Guardians
darkness.
coming
That's what
in.
the problem is. You guys are 100% afraid to live in the
So wait,
darkness.
do you want like a Fincher version of Rockets?
It's
Like-
going to be it's going to be a dark movie. And then
This
whenever
was
you
dark.
get, no, it wasn't dark enough. It was, there's a difference between a movie, what would you call it? Like a movie that's not taking itself seriously,
Mhm,
and then
sure.
a movie that's a joke.
Mhm.
That has become a joke. And then whenever we're looking at all this modern stuff, whenever they go to that goopy, facility, that's a
Mhm.
joke. Whenever they go to, other Earth and there's like slapstickiness going on, that's the movie being a joke. It's not taking itself seriously. That would be fine. There are moments where the movie doesn't.
There are serious, authentic moments in both of those scenes that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Like the movie is balancing that tone, I think, expertly throughout the entire thing. It's not like it goes from big chunks of goofy to big chunks of super serious. Like it understands
Right.
that they both have to live together, and it, I think, does both very well throughout the entire movie.
Right.
So yeah.
Because it establishes right from the start that their mission is to save Rocket. So everything they're doing, the undertone of it is dark because they're trying to save Rocket from dying. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that's
Make that its own movie. Don't have any of the flashback stuff. Have that already. What would you call it? Have it be its own thing that we already know, and then going into this movie with Rocket dying, and then the only way to save him is to have this whole thing of them trying to find the High Evolutionary, the guy who originally hurt him. I don't want any of. I think what you guys are confused with what I'm saying is have everything that is flashback be its own movie, and then this movie just be what it is. Because then you can have those dichotomy in tones, and it would make a little bit more sense because we already have this preconceived notion of who the High Evolutionary is, and we know what it actually means for them to have to go to him to save Rocket. Like, out of all the people in the universe that they don't want to have to take Rocket to, the person that they have to take him to save him is the High Evolutionary. That's an amazing story. But this is going back and forth. And for half of this movie, I don't know why I'm supposed to hate this. I hate this guy. I mean, besides the fact that we have this preconceived notion that he was tortured, but I don't know. But watching the MCU, I don't know that this is the guy that did it. They never say his name.
Animals,
yes, we find that out halfway through the movie. What I'm saying is, we know that Rocket is tortured. We know this, right?
Yeah.
We don't know that Chuck Woody is the guy that is doing it. We don't know that the High Evolutionary. Okay,
right.
We can make that assumption, but we don't know until like halfway through the movie. I'm saying I would have preferred a movie where we knew who the High Evolutionary was and what he did to Rocket going into this.
I'm just clarifying here. Are you saying that for you, this movie wasn't clear on who the antagonist was until halfway through?
No, I think we know who the antagonist is because I would have appreciated a movie before this that showed us Rocket, going through everything. It didn't have to be a full movie. It could have been one of those specials that they do, like a Rocket origin special, really dark, kind of like a Netflix Daredevil, Jessica Jones, kind of just one brutal special. Okay. And then going into this, then we realize, oh, he's going back to the High Evolutionary. That's the only person. I think it's just, I don't like the way the story was told. I like everything in the story. It's just the way it's told, I think, is sloppy.
I am so glad that you have an outlet to express those opinions, and I am so glad you are on the show because that is
today.
I really am today more than any other, except maybe last week. Today more than any other day. This is always fun for me, and it's always interesting to me, like how we can see things so completely different. So if you feel like you've expressed that, that idea of making a separate Rocket movie,
move on.
Then can we then move to talking about the movie we did see, and not the movie that we wished we had seen, which, by the way, is a normal reaction, a normal thing to talk about. There have been many times I've come out from a movie and gone, oh, I wish they had done this instead. And then there comes a time where you go, okay, but what did they do? How did that work? Those kind of things.
And this is the last thing I'll say, just really quick. I think that my big issue is I had a difficult time transitioning, watching scenes of Rocket go through these horrible experiments and everything awful happening to him. And then the very next scene, it being slapstick goofiness. Like there's not a really fluid transition from one moment into the next. If you want to boil everything I've said down to one thought, that's what it is.
So I think that this movie, tone disparity is your main problem, which is my interesting because it's one of my biggest compliments of the movie is how well it handles its separate tones. So
it's just going to be one of those preferential things.
Yeah, we just see it differently, I think.
I agree with Aaron. I didn't have, but I mean, I respect your opinion. I didn't have an issue with it. Maybe because Guardians has always been the more silliest one of all the Marvels. And in a way, there is a darkness to them, just their backstories. They all come from a dark past. I mean, the first movie, just knowing about what happened to Gamora and Nebula. I mean, that's especially Nebula. Like she went through some dark things. So I guess it's always been there for me. And I guess the tone didn't feel inconsistent. So,
and the underlying foundation for these movies for me has been the idea of how trauma, which is something that can separate us, is also something that can unite us. And so there's this underlying message of, all our pasts have something in it that's messed up, and especially with this group, very messed up. Like everyone in this crew has something, I mean, other than maybe Mantis or Drax or, they're
Drax lost his whole family.
Well, that's true. That's true.
He had a very, I mean, all of them, if you wanted to do an origin story on all of them, they'd have something. Well, I don't know about Mantis, but so
trauma doesn't have to separate, it can unite. And I think that's, in this movie, the focal point of that was Rocket. But we also still dealt with everybody else's trauma too, which I really liked. You know, there were definitely some,
Quill was going through it in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked that stuff. I enjoyed it actually kind of surprised me, that storyline and the way it was handled in this movie. And I'm speaking of the storyline of course, of a quote unquote new Gamora and how that impacts somebody, who was in a relationship with the old Gamora. I was actually kind of surprised at how seriously they treated it, as much as there were, of course, jokes, because again, that is the beauty, I think, of this franchise. There was a real respect and honesty from both new Gamora and from Peter. And Peter looks like the buffoon a few times, but he also then is kind of proven right a couple times. You know what I mean?
Charming,
He's charming too. So like the movie understands that these characters contain multitudes, except possibly Adam Warlock. So let's talk about Adam Warlock for a second.
Oh, they did him so wrong.
How hilarious was that character? What do you mean? Oh, this is coming from a place of who that is in the comics?
Okay, I'll say two things. Did I like his character on screen? Yes, he was hilarious. I absolutely loved him. Did they do him dirty? 100% they did him dirty. But I don't care. It was so funny. I was so worried about Will Poulter being Adam Warlock, because I think the only thing I'd seen him in before this was either I saw him in the Maze Runner movie, and what's the one with the Ted Lasso, Jason Sudeikis that has Jennifer Aniston. It's like Road Trip or something.
They're in an RV.
Meet the Millers. Yeah. Those are the two things I'd seen him in. And in both of these, he's kind of like a little lanky guy. So when I heard he was going to be playing Adam Warlock, who's one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel, I'm like, oh, really? But I think that he definitely bulked up for the role. He's a big guy in this movie. But I also thought it was interesting what they did with this character. So yeah, I'll give them big points for what they did for Adam.
He to me was maybe not the funniest, because Drax is always the funniest to me. I will always laugh more at the silliness that Drax does and his inability to escape literalism than anything else. But I was really impressed with the goofiness of the Adam Warlock character, and yet how it made sense for what was going on in the story. And it was probably the most surprising character for me. I thought it was going to be one thing, and it turned out to be something completely different. And I really enjoyed that. So yeah. Other performances you guys want to call out or say you liked, didn't like, whatever?
I thought this was definitely the better Peter performance. I think he showed, I think Chris Pratt is a great actor, but I think he really showed a different side to him that we haven't. I don't think we've seen that yet, right? Like Chris Pratt hasn't done drama that I can think of besides like Everwood. So
Passengers, maybe.
Oh, that was terrible.
But it is Chris Pratt doing drama. And we can have a Passengers conversation sometime, I enjoy
everybody's favorite comedy, Zero Dark 30,
Oh, he was in that. Yeah, very briefly. Yeah, I just like, there's a scene that particularly that Chris Pratt has with Rocket that just gutted me. That I was like, that's another one. I was like, whoa, there you go. Like this, I was really impressed. But everyone did a phenomenal job. I think this is just one of my favorite. Maybe I don't know if I am biased. I could say because the second Guardians was just like I liked it, but it was okay. I thought it was a little bit more predictable and stuff. But I just like I know you touched on this too, Aaron. It's like I love this cast. I love these characters.
Yeah. It's worth conversing about how it compares to the other movies. That's a fun thing we do as fans. For me, I think just the shock of that first movie will probably put it above the others. But I really like Guardians 2. This is actually my least favorite Guardians movie, which isn't saying a lot because I really love the Guardians movies.
It's definitely my least favorite.
Well, yes, I could have predicted that.
It would go first, second. First, third,
1, 3, 2.
Yeah, 1, 3, 2. But I still liked 2. Like
Mm-hmm.
but I like all the. I think as a whole, Guardians is a really great trilogy.
Yeah, I think most, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, I think most people would go 1, 3, 2. I think
Oh,
is kind of
yes.
how I'm interpreting the feedback I'm hearing on 3.
I
Because
have
there were a lot
friends
of people
that
who didn't
say
like 2.
this is their favorite Marvel film ever, which I'm surprised about.
I've heard that too. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. But my memory is when 2 came out that I felt like I was outside of the norm saying I liked it. That a
Yeah.
lot of critics were saying they didn't really like 2.
I don't think anything's lived up to that first Guardians movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I don't think so either.
I thought the same thing because I thought I was on because I think I was like maybe on like low liked it with 2, and then I checked the Rotten Tomato reviews and they were really high, like for the critics. So I was like, well,
maybe it was a
I
fan thing then. I don't know.
I don't know.
Critics are fans, Aaron.
You know, we can be. It's true. We
Definitely,
can
absolutely.
be. You just have to admit it. You just have to.
I'm a fan of Guardians, so yes, there was a little bit of a bias going in. I can admit that.
I also here's a point I want to bring up and see if this was a positive or negative for you guys. I am probably more willing than almost any other franchise to suspend my disbelief with Guardians of the Galaxy. I do not get caught up in this movie with realism or that would never work that way, and there's a lot of that in this movie. There's a lot of things in this movie that there's something that happens at the end where they try to make you think one thing very, very intensely and then just undo it without without any real explanation or consequence, right? And I just, for whatever reason, this franchise I'm just more willing to do that with. How does that stuff hit you in Guardians? Because there is a lot of disbelief that has to be suspended to not get distracted by stuff that doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Do you guys disagree?
I would agree with you, but I think it's because the first film kind of set the tone for that. So going into that worked for me. And actually, you bring up a good point because I think that's been an issue with some of the recent sequels. Like even just thinking Ant-Man, like the first 2 Ant-Mans were set in the real world, so there was more realism there that I had to like understand. So then when the third one was like in space, practically like half Guardians, half
it
Star
was a Guardians
Wars.
movie almost. Yeah,
It
like
was
Star Wars Guardians. Like
yeah.
yeah.
I was kind of like, I don't know. Like I couldn't get on board with that as much, but I'm already used to it with Guardians. So yeah, you bring up that's a good point.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew? Did you think that at all?
Well, I think just maybe for me, it's not the only ridiculous one. I think Thor has become very ridiculous to where I can kind of suspend my disbelief. But at the same time, in the new what was it? Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, that was a ridiculous movie. So I think the fact that I think the MCU is not taking itself seriously anymore. And I think I've felt a huge tonal change ever since Endgame.
Yeah.
That it just I'm not sure I'm down with this new.
There is definitely, I don't know if it's a huge shift, but there is, once Robert Downey Jr. left, his sense of humor kind of defined the tone of everything up through Endgame in many ways. And it was almost this debonair sense of humor kind of thing, quippy, I'm not saying every character is exactly the same. I'm just saying they all kind of fit themselves into his sense of humor. And since he's been gone, it's almost as if Marvel is a little bit trying to find their consistency, but they're also, I think, shifting towards James Gunn's Guardians a little bit too. At least that's what I've seen in a lot of the stuff. They're also trying to figure out television and really trying to scramble with how they want to approach that. And I think it's pretty clear they think they did too much too quickly, and they want to back it off and try to really focus on high quality over quantity. So it'll be interesting to see them find their new voice and where they find it. So yeah, I wouldn't be upset if it was Kamala Khan. I love that sense of humor that's in Miss Marvel.
Kamala Khan is, and Marvel's is actually like one of the MCU movies I'm most excited for this year.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, she is such a fun character.
I mean, MCU's in a weird place right now, man. I mean, until we know exactly with the Jonathan Majors stuff and like it's like they're just I don't think anybody has a clue what the MCU is going to look like 2 years from now. There's just too much up in the air right now.
2 weeks from now.
I think they know Secret Invasion's coming out and they have that. But that's true with the WGA stuff going on. Like, you know, how much was the Secret Invasion in the can? Are they still writing on it? Because if so, guess what? No writers. So like, you know, there's a lot to be seen. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple years for Marvel. It would be hilarious if James Gunn was just like, you know, just launches DC to, you know, prominence, and Marvel just kind of flounders and tries to figure out the next thing.
I know that there's
that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, look, as long as there's good
don't be
movies to go
afraid.
see. Yeah,
don't be afraid. The DC has amazing stories to tell.
Wait, who directed the newest Flash? Because I'm hearing this new Flash is supposedly like the best movie ever.
That's what people are saying.
People are saying that, yeah.
That wasn't James Gunn, right?
No, it was
that's like, because that's more serious. That's like way too serious for James Gunn.
Yeah,
that was Muschietti.
Okay.
He did like the It Chapter 2 and It Chapter 1 and stuff, and Mama.
Yeah, he's only done really horrors before Flash, so
yeah,
which I'm down with.
All right,
hate to waste the MCU's first film F-bomb. You know,
what an interesting choice, right? Just the very first F-bomb in the entirety of the MCU after 15 years.
Not the first film, or not. It's the first in film. You know, the Netflix shows have, you know, like Jessica Jones and Daredevil.
But when those aired, they weren't technically in the MCU. They are now, because of things. But
yeah, way to waste it. You know, actually, there was a family sitting next to me, and the mom going like that. The kids didn't even notice, but I just thought it was funny.
It's a really interesting choice. And
open the effing door.
I didn't realize that was the first time that was the F word was used in Marvel.
Yeah. And it's got to be almost like a goodbye present for James Gunn. Like, okay, go ahead. You can, you know, break the glass on this one.
Hey, maybe it's metaphorical. Open the effing door. Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, you know, the word is now that Blade's going to be a rated R movie. Like, you know, the MCU Deadpool will be rated R. So, like, you know, I think they're in a place where they know they have to start to broaden from just the very, very specific fun for all ages thing and make more adult oriented content. So,
not that type of content.
We'll see how it goes. So, yeah. I think
can we do a spoiler talk on this? I have a lot, like 90% of my negatives for this film are spoilers. So.
Oh, okay. We'll give you a Sif spoil rant. It'll be in your feed after this one. Anything else non-spoiler either of you guys want to say about this amazing movie that should have never been anything else?
Two post-credit scenes.
Yes. I also think that I know you touched on the Gamora and Peter thing, but I actually really like the way they handled that. I thought that was how that ends and what was said. I thought I was relieved that was the route that they took.
I agree. I liked a lot of the decisions that it made down the stretch there. So there you go. Those are some, by the way, I would say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can disagree with me. You don't need to stay for the final post-credit scene. There's like, the
final
nothing.
one, because
the final one, there's some Easter eggs. If you're paying attention, there's some real there. Aaron,
I wasn't paying enough attention.
I don't think you were paying enough attention. I'll say this. If you guys stay for that second post-credit scene, read the newspaper.
Oh, I saw the newspaper.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
That didn't strike me as anything.
That was just like you said, it was an Easter egg.
You
Yeah.
didn't read the newspaper.
Was it more than an Easter egg?
Yeah, it's. I'll just
right,
say
Sip
it's
Spoil.
hinting
We'll
a lot
talk
of
about it on the
secret.
Sip
It hints a
Spoil.
lot of Secret Wars.
Okay, we'll talk about it in Sip Spoil. There you go. There's our thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's move on to the next review. Let's talk about Peter Pan and Wendy.
Another Peter movie.
Wendy Darling, a young girl afraid to leave her childhood home behind, meets Peter Pan, a boy who refuses to grow up. Alongside her brothers and a tiny fairy Tinkerbell, she travels with Peter to the magical world of Neverland. There she encounters an evil pirate captain, Captain Hook, and embarks on a thrilling adventure that will change her life forever. This is the live-action remake of the animated Peter Pan with quite a bit changed. Much of that because the old Peter Pan hasn't aged well in many, many ways. So a lot more respect for the Native American tribe in this one, and some different things as well. And yet much of it really does come straight from that animated movie. Lots of the scenes feel very similar to that original animated movie with what we're doing. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay? Susan, you get to kick us off this time.
I disliked it. I was not a fan of this movie.
Andrew?
Yeah, I didn't like it. No.
Sounds like Highsided didn't like it.
Yeah, I said I
Okay.
didn't like it.
Highsided didn't like it.
It didn't frustrate me as much as Guardians did, but I think I disliked it more. Obviously.
I guess I'll be the one to talk first then. I didn't like this movie, but I thought it was okay. I am
high-sided. Didn't like it. So.
Yeah, I thought this movie's fine. It's fine. It's just fine. I think
Well-
we are very careful to avoid talking about the skills and talents of younger actors in all ways, and so I'm not going to name names or point fingers or whatever. But here's what I'll say: there are a lot of young actors in this movie, and I think the movie feels it. So that's about all I think I need to say on that. And those young actors are asked to carry this movie, and so in many ways, and the movie does not feel carried, and at times feels burdened down by those choices and trying to get through them. So yeah, that's probably the primary thing that keeps this movie back from being something interesting, because I actually think of all the Disney live action remakes I've seen, this one feels to me the most in need of this movie. There's you can talk about some of the problematic things in Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast or whatever it might be, but did we really need the live action remakes to revise that, do that differently? I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned the two that I actually kind of like.
I didn't like Beauty and the Beast, but I loved Aladdin, and
Aladdin is really good.
Yeah, Aladdin was great.
I love both of those movies. I'm not saying those movies aren't good. What I'm saying is they're in a world where they don't make those live action remakes. I think I am more okay with that world than a world where they don't make this live action remake. I think this one redefines some things from the original one that are important, and I think that's why I land in the it's okay, because I think there's a really interesting thing they're doing here, especially with Captain Hook and Peter, that I think elevates this material in a big way. So, and Jude Law's great, and Jim Gaffigan's great, and it's they're
the
really,
best parts of the movie.
Yeah, I really think they are. And
sure.
I think besides Dustin Hoffman, Jude Law might be like the best Captain Hook we've ever got.
I think it's arguable, even including Hoffman. So.
Yeah, he's up there. Quick question for you guys: who's the villain in this movie?
I think that's
Isn't it Peter Pan?
Yeah,
I think
honestly,
technically it's Peter Pan.
I think Peter Pan is the villain in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel so bad for Jude Law. I mean, for Captain Hook. I'm like, oh my God, that is such a tragic origin story.
Mm-hmm.
That broke my heart.
Yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying about enjoying, what this is doing, because I think it's, You know, and again, Disney is doing this thing probably a little bit too much, where they're taking their villains and nuancing their backstories,
Maleficenting them.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're doing it over and over and over again, and that's it is what it is. But I think this story in particular, it works really well for me, and is part of the reason I enjoy the movie as much as I do. So,
Well,
which again is not all that much, just so we're clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all in the same boat in this. But I think that, man, I already forgot what I was going to say now. Never mind. What were you talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you were talking about how Disney's kind of doing this thing where they're kind of humanizing the villains, a little bit. They're making all these new origin stories for them. I actually kind of like it.
Sure.
I mean, every now and then you need a villain. You need a. I'm trying to think of I was going to say Darth Vader, but then that's a prime example of when they went back and we see his origin story. It's actually really heartbreaking and tragic. I think that I like it. I'm digging that.
It'll be really interesting to see what they do in The Little Mermaid here shortly. I mean, we're just a couple weeks out from seeing The Little Mermaid, because Melissa McCarthy is playing just let my brain Ursula. And just recently rewatched the original Little Mermaid in preparation, and I'm just here to tell you, Ursula is the only one in that movie making any sense. So I already think Ursula is the hero of The Little Mermaid. So it'll be interesting to see if they emphasize some of those things. So all Ursula's doing is trying to teach a young woman that she doesn't need a man, that she can find independence in her voice. So
is that all she's doing?
Yeah.
No, Susan, that is not all she's doing.
She's trying to get revenge on King Triton.
The contract's legal.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing.
How can you hold it against her? She had a signed contract. That's
the dumbest thing.
That's not on Ursula.
Ariel made a dumb decision. We know that.
Yes.
She gives up everything for a guy she doesn't know. But
what I learned from Disney back when I was a kid is, if there's ever a lightning storm, just hold up a legal contract and it'll block it.
That's right.
It'll block any electrical current heading your way.
We're supposed to be so upset that Ursula's humanoid character is getting married to Eric. And I'm just like, does it matter which of the humanoid characters he gets married to? Neither one of them know him at all. He doesn't know either of them at all. He's basing everything on some sort of siren song.
Ursula hypnotized him. Don't forget.
Yeah,
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't. I just watched the movie. She does not hypnotize Eric.
Yes, she does.
No, she does not.
She comes out. She uses her voice. Yeah, the necklace, the conch that has
thing.
her voice in it.
When that thing breaks, he literally gets out of the trance.
Yeah. Aaron, are you about to have me drop a whole bunch of Little Mermaid knowledge on you right now?
I just watched this movie very
carefully. You need to rewatch it.
That is not hypnotism. That is not hypnotism that's happening there.
Okay, she roofied him.
She did something. He's like a zombie.
She sang in the voice of the person that saved his life. All that is him going, oh, this must be the person who saved my life. He has full control of his actions, and his actions are saying...
His eyes turned yellow.
His eyes literally,
because he's remembered. Yes, but that's him choosing to turn his eyes yellow. That's not Ursula turning his eyes yellow.
You know what? We can settle this right now.
This is
Phil, you are Eric. Phil
That's
is
right,
Eric.
that's
We can
right.
ask Eric. Were you hypnotized by Ursula?
That's right.
I can't
waiting.
believe it. I mean, I've never had someone say this. I mean, he literally is like a zombie when he's around her.
Phil has confirmed. Yes, hypnosis is real.
Yes, he's like a zombie because he's a love zombie because he's an idiot. It has nothing to do with Ursula. She's not using magical powers on him.
Yes, she is. She is.
Literally stealing. Aaron, she literally stole someone's voice via magic.
That was magic.
And then she played the magic through the magic conch, and the magic yellow dust went into him and made his yellow magic eyes.
So
what we're trying to say is Jude Law's really good in Peter Pan and Wendy.
How bad Peter Pan and Wendy was that we are rather talking about Little Mermaid than this movie.
You are so right. There's just nothing to talk about in this movie.
Was not
Phil just changed the title. on the video for those listening on the podcast.
Film review,
the
Little
Little Mermaid
I'd
1989.
rather talk about Little Mermaid. That's so, like, honestly, because what is there to say about Peter Pan and Wendy? It was not good. And you're right. I don't want to rip apart a kid, but I'm sorry. Peter Pan was sadly, like, he's the star, and that was just not good. I'm sorry.
There were many times with many different actors where I was not bought.
You know what, Aaron? You would make a great litigator in Ursula's, legal case. Whenever she's
Ursula's the hero of Little Mermaid. Listen,
Clearly.
I don't understand.
Clearly, you love
I
her.
just watched this.
You know what, Susan? This is the guy you agreed, or over here, sorry. Yeah, this is the guy you agreed with whenever you were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Are you sure you don't want to come on
I
my
watched
side?
this movie last week. When's the last time you watched Little Mermaid? When's the last time?
I don't know. I grew up with it, so I've watched it like
Immediately.
300 times. I could probably quote that movie from beginning to end, and I haven't seen it in years.
When
I know,
somebody
I saw that movie.
when somebody smells a pie that's cooling in a window, and the little waft in the animation
float.
floats over to them, they float over with their nose. Yeah. Is that magic, or is that just indicating that they are making a choice to go towards that pie because of the smell?
Well,
this is
But if that
there's
pie
symbolism.
breaks on the ground and then you snap out of it,
Yeah.
then that's not. The smell is still there. Like, what are you talking? It's not. It's
Well, that's what I'm saying. The smell wasn't there anymore.
If it's a Lucky
not
Charms,
smell.
if it's a Lucky Charms pie, then yes, because it's magically delicious.
Can we at least all agree that Eric is an empty vessel who means nothing in that movie? Like,
Hey, Phil is one of the prime examples why this show has taken off. I need you to take that back right now.
Possibly the dumbest prince I've ever seen in a Disney movie. Like, he is an
Oh, you're right about
complete
that.
moron.
I know.
but-
Phil is here.
Eric is.
He
All
is
right,
a real
and thus-
person with
and thus
feelings.
And thus
Honestly,
ends our Peter
most
Pan and
Disney
Wendy
princes
review.
are empty vessels. I mean, what did Snow White's prince and Cinderella's prince really do? It's these live actions that are making them more of a person.
Yeah.
The
I genuinely
Cinderella.
want to drive to Phil's house right now and give him a hug.
Why is this offending Phil?
Because Phil is going to play Eric in the upcoming Little Mermaid film.
Phil was cast as Eric in the live action.
Well, he
remake,
was the
so-
understudy
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
You joking?
No,
That's been an ongoing joke in our podcast for years now.
yeah.
Oh my
whenever
gosh.
They announced that
Like
movie,
3
yeah.
or 4 years this has been going on.
Yeah. Whatever this energy is in the podcast the last couple of weeks, let's keep it. Let's keep it.
I don't know.
I'm ready for it.
I need to see if my I just switched medications, so I need to see if that's what's going on. Maybe it's totally altered all my brain synapses whenever it comes to how I feel about movies.
Yes. Prince Eric has agency. He makes his own choices.
Again,
that is what
not
we
talking
need to
about Just still talking about Little Mermaid.
And
That's
thus,
how much we didn't like Peter Pan.
And thus ends our review of Peter Pan and Wendy.
There's really nothing else to say about
Nothing
it.
else.
No
to say.
post
If you want
credit
to watch
scene.
it on Disney Plus, and you can. I mean, I struggled to get through it. So good luck is my review.
Yeah, again, I think it's fine. It's like, there's I think the other thing that I will actually say something about this movie and then we'll move on. The other thing that the reason I think it's fine is I think the update in the visualization of some of the effects was needed and cool. Some of the flying stuff was really done well. Some of those fight scenes, those kind of things I thought were really cool. So that's
it was shot well. It was shot well.
Yeah. There you go. Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus.
I also like the costume design. Costume department actually did a really good job.
Looked
that was
pretty.
my big pro for this besides Jude Law.
Absolutely. All right. Before we head into the best ever challenge, thank you to our Sif Pop members. If you want to be part of the amazing group that keeps us arguing like this, you can do that at Sif Pop. Just go to patreon.com/SifPop and take a look there. And you can tell us, you can comment to us there. You can hang out with us there. Lots of fun, bonus content there. Just go check it all out. Patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, best ever challenge, best ever movies that have a fairy in them. So excited to hear what you guys found on this. We'll go number 5 to number 1. I'll kick us off. My number 5. Oh, and by the way, if you have it higher, make sure you let us know so that it can be
Trump.
It can be trumped. So number 5 for me is Fantasia, the Disney movie Fantasia.
Love it.
Really enjoy that series of stories, and it's kind of an interesting musical in many ways, Fantasia. So really enjoy it. It's almost like a series of short films, so it's almost like a collection
Anthology
more than a
series.
movie. Yeah, it's more of an anthology, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. So Fantasia is my number 5. Andrew, what's your number 5?
My get trumped. This is where I have Hook.
Oh,
Anybody?
Trump.
Yep, trumping it. Trump.
Susan, what's your number 5?
Speaking of live action, it was Cinderella, the 2015 one, because I actually really liked that live action remake. And
Trump.
well, there we go.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't think I would.
Man, Aaron was lagging on that one.
All right, on to our number 4s.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Aaron, we're just trumping everything. Has anybody talked yet?
Yeah, I talked about Fantasia. about
Okay.
Fantasia.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so Andrew, you're number 4.
If this gets trumped, let's go with Euro Trip.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the
Interesting.
The absinthe.
Mhm.
yeah.
When they all drank the absinthe. Yeah.
There it is. There's the fairy.
You know what? This is a really funny movie. It's raunchy, it's vulgar, it's whatever you want to call it, but there are some clever jokes in this movie that I thoroughly enjoyed.
And a
I have
great
no
song.
problem. Oh, Scotty doesn't.
Scotty doesn't know.
Matt, that is one of the very. I don't know why Matt Damon has decided to become the cameo king. You know, he'll just show up in a random movie, but Matt Damon showing up in this was primo.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
All right, Euro Trip in at number 4 for Andrew. Susan, what's your number 4?
Shrek 2.
Oh, I forgot about the Shrek movies.
No,
No
I'm not
Trump?
a big fan. I'm
Okay.
not a big fan of the Shrek movies. So
Oh,
Wow.
good. No, you're getting 2 thumbs up from me.
Honestly, the first 2 are the best. I actually
Yeah.
really love the second one because we get to meet Puss in Boots, who I think was such a great addition to that cast. And but Shrek 2 has so many iconic scenes for me. But
I need a hero.
yes, I love that song, and who is the fairy is singing that. And I just really enjoy this movie. This is a classic for me.
I honestly think I like Shrek 2 more than I like the first Shrek movie.
Same. Shrek 2 is my favorite. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole, what is it, Knights with the play on cops?
Yeah.
They do. That was so funny. And he does like a pepper
Tonight
spray,
on
pepper
Knights.
spray him with the ground pepper. Oh, it was genius.
No,
genius.
it really
I
is.
love it.
No. There's some pretty. It may not seem it, but there's some highbrow humor going on, like some pretty clever stuff going on here.
Good. Maybe I'll have to revisit sometime. Maybe I'll have
You
to
should watch
revisit.
Shrek 2. Shrek 2 again I agree. That it's,
I remember thinking Shrek 1 was fine.
I like them both.
But
I'm
after
saying-
that, and all the sequels, I was just rolling my eyes the entire time. So.
yeah, and the first 2. That's it. First 2.
I hear the new Puss in Boots is actually good. I haven't seen it.
It
though.
is.
It is.
It's really good, actually.
It is really good. It's like
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna check that one out then.
Yeah, it's great. All right, on to our number 3s. My number 3 is the 2015 Cinderella. That is my number 3. So I had it at number 3. Susan had it at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie is great, and
Yes.
people don't often talk about it as one of the Disney live action remakes, but it was kind of one of the first ones. And I love the things that were changed in this. I love the visualization of this. I love the agency it gives Cinderella in this. And I love the way it ends. One of my favorite endings. So yeah, this is a good movie. Susan, talk about why you like it.
I mean, you kind of said everything I would say. I think one of the reasons I liked it too is just Cinderella is just what you were talking about, like empty vessel thing as far as
Yeah.
the prince. Like the animated cartoon, why does he fall in love with her? Like, really, besides looks? I guess it's like there's
Them
really no
feet.
reason.
Yeah, the foot fetish.
I guess so. So before this, I love Ever After. I actually really think that's a great adaptation of Cinderella. That's darker, but like for an actual like live action Disney remake, this was so well done. I thought that Lily James and oh gosh, I just want to call him Rob Stark. I can't remember his real name.
James, I think his first name's James, isn't it?
I don't know.
We'll look it up. You can keep talking.
I'm blanking on it, but I thought they had great chemistry. I love
Richard
that there's more
Madden.
of a. Yes, there you go. I love that they build them up more, and they actually have conversation. It's not just oh, you're beautiful, I love you. So, I don't know. I just thought it was a really good live action Disney. I think that was one of the first ones. You're right. It was one of the first ones that I was like, there was a reason for that remake. Peter Pan and Wendy didn't need it. No reason.
There are plenty of reasons, and I talked about them. But,
No.
I will say this. I think Susan is 100% right. Ever After is the best adaptation of Cinderella.
So good. So
Yeah.
good.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think I like the 2015
Is
one
Cinderella
better.
2015
I think
the
so.
best one?
I think I like that one better. All right, so that moves us on to Andrew. You're number 3, I believe.
Can. It's time for Moulin Rouge, everybody.
Oh.
Dang it. Again,
You have like a
absolutely
button
trumped
or
it.
something? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Yeah, he has
I
a
was
sound
like,
bar.
How are you doing that?
Nope, this is not me. Ah, I'm gonna have to send you different variations of that.
Feel free. I'm open to this idea. All right, so I think Susan, what is your number 3?
Ella Enchanted.
Ooh, interesting.
Okay.
Enchanted.
I love this movie, by the way. I think it is such a great movie. Just a really good, play on fairy tales, I guess, because it kind of incorporates a lot of different stories. I thought it was original while still being, I guess you could say formulaic. But the fairies in it are funny. Vivica A. Fox is like the funny, annoying fairy, and then Minnie Driver is like the sensible one. But yeah, I thought that Anne Hathaway this is probably before she really exploded, but I think that's the first time I really realized she had a great singing voice too. But yeah, I think that's a great movie.
All right, on to our number 2s. At number 2, I have Cabin in the Woods in at my number 2. Andrew's trying to figure it out. He'll get there. Maybe he'll get there eventually. Yes, sir.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to.
There are a lot of mythical creatures in this movie.
That's true. Did one just pop out during that elevator scene?
Yes.
Okay.
So I took it to count.
Fair play.
I love this movie, and so I will talk about it. It's so wild to me. The cabin in the woods trope continues to live on. Even just this year, Knock at the Cabin is a cabin in the woods story. It's so for a movie to, really break it down like this one does, and then pretend it's a, kind of a reality show kind of idea is really interesting to me. So yeah, I really enjoy Cabin in the Woods. So that's my number 2.
Whenever I watch a horror movie now, I always just hope that at the very end I'm going to see Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford, and I realize that it was actually just a secret Cabin in the Woods movie the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been my number 3. Well done.
Andrew, what is your number 2?
This is where I have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Nice. I had it at number 4. You had it at number 2. Go ahead and speak on it.
Yeah, I know there's a difference between sprites and fairies. I'm a D&D player. Come at me, people.
Fair.
Yeah. But whoa, this movie is so good. I just had to talk about it. It's so good. I've seen it. I think about 4 times now. It's not a short movie. So the fact that it's one of those movies I just find something beautiful about it every single time. Every single time I see it, there's something either visually beautiful, lyrically beautiful, or just the story itself just has so many moving facets. And Aaron and I have said this 1,000 times. It's not a Pinocchio story. This is a Geppetto story, and it's beautifully told that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely love it.
Very nice. Yep, I agree with everything said.
Finally, it took how long are we into this podcast? An hour in, and you finally agree with something I said.
Maybe it's because Guillermo del Toro invited Susan and I personally to go out and see it with him. But maybe not. Maybe it's just because he's a super talented artist. And
if you really appreciated it, you would have had it higher on your list. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Susan, what is your number 2?
Ferngully.
Ooh,
I love Ferngully.
Avatar.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's why I hate Avatar. Because the whole time I watched that first movie, I was like, Ferngully, Pocahontas, Braveheart, or no, sorry, not Braveheart. Sorry. What is that? Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves.
Sure.
So that was whatever. That's my digression to first Avatar.
Shall we talk about Little Mermaid some more too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ferngully is, man, I don't even think I realized how dark that movie was as a kid. Like, and I remember always being a little creeped out when like the mud and the goop and stuff would
Texas.
like things would get going. But that is a deep movie. I think it's great. I actually really want to rewatch it because it's been a while. But I remember as a kid, I watched it all the time. And, I think of fairies, I think of Ferngully. So,
yeah. I mean, you look at like the cast, you got Christian Slater and Robin Williams, and Tim Curry is the one who plays Hexus. But I think that, you look at Robin Williams as Batty. It's such a fun character. It's not the genie by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that Batty is one of his like most iconic characters that he played.
Very nice. Ferngully in at number 2. Now for our number 1s. Mine has already been mentioned. Yes, you can. Moulin Rouge is my number 1 movie that includes a fairy, the Absinthe Fairy, of course. And I have a real soft spot in my heart for this movie. I like how Baz Luhrmann sees film. I like how he uses it. You talk about suspension of disbelief. Baz Luhrmann basically says, I'm never going to let you forget you're watching a movie. He's like, I am going to be audacious about presenting you a movie.
That's an interesting way. I've never thought about it, but you're actually 100% right. He's like, no, you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
He's not trying to immerse you, really. It's like, just enjoy the
he's trying to immerse you in fantasy. He's not trying to immerse you in reality. And so there's, and it works. And this movie really works. Some of the songs in this are euphoric for me. I really, really like this movie, and really like Baz Luhrmann.
I think Moulin Rouge is incredible. I'm so happy it's on your list. I thought about it. It would have been an honorable mention, but I love the music. Ooh, so good.
Yeah.
There's
you had it, Andrew.
Yeah, it was my number 3. The rendition of Roxanne in this movie is my favorite song of any musical ever. It's such a it's haunting. It is a dark look at how that if you listen to the Police's lyrics for Roxanne, it's kind of like whenever you listen to Simon and Garfunkel, Sound of Silence, you're like, oh, when they sing it's like, hello darkness my old friend, but then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, this is a dark song. So that's just, and Ewan McGregor has one of the most beautiful voices ever. It's unfair that one guy has so many things going for him.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let's see. Continue with the number 1s, Andrew.
Pan's Labyrinth. This
surprised.
is my favorite foreign language film. It's my favorite Guillermo del Toro film. Second is Pinocchio, I think. But no, The Pale Man is like one of the most terrifying villains in film history. It's I'm so glad that there's a live section over Aaron's face right now, because I know that's what he was doing, and I hate it so much. It's I don't know what he does, but there's something with the way that Guillermo del Toro does dark fantasy that is so accessible to me. Just it's so easy for me to jump into his movies.
He should, you know what he should do? He should direct a Rocket Raccoon origin story.
Holy crap! You're doing a bit right now. You're doing a bit right now, Aaron. But if Guillermo del Toro, that would be a movie I would camp out for. If do you remember when people used to have to do that to camp out for movies?
Yeah.
I did that once. I camped out for 7 hours for the 2014 Godzilla film.
Nice.
Wow.
I loved every minute of it.
Oh, okay, good. That's nice.
Yeah.
Susan, what's your number one?
It's Hook. So
In my honorable
I mean,
mentions.
Julia Roberts. Come on. She's so great in that. And this is my favorite adaptation of Peter Pan, even more than the cartoon, honestly.
Me too.
Love this movie. This was another one as a kid I would watch repeatedly, rent it at actually like a grocery store. That's where I'd rent it at Tom Thumb, like over and over back when they did it. I own it now. But I just love what they did with this story. I love like Peter as an adult going back. Like that's so cool. It's so creative. I feel like that's a movie idea that people would do now. It's just really impressive that they did it back then. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's great. And obviously Julia Roberts is a really great Tinkerbell.
Don't tell that to the people at the Razzies, because she wanted a Razzie for that movie.
It's so weird.
Why? That's
so
stupid.
I know.
Sometimes
People
those
are weird.
Razzies are like way off.
Ben Affleck.
For
Yeah.
what did he get that?
For last duel.
Yeah.
Oh, I disagree with that. I love
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. It's a good choice.
Hook. It was my number 5. Absolutely, I totally agree, Susan. It is my favorite iteration of Peter Pan, because it finally does the thing like, what if Peter Pan grew up?
Yeah.
And Robin Williams is so good, and Dustin Hoffman. I think Dustin Hoffman possibly could have won an Oscar for this movie.
It's really great.
I every single time I watch a movie, I can't find him in that face. Like, I know what Dustin Hoffman looks like, but when I'm watching this character, I'm like, I don't see him in there. It's so good.
Also, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I feel like all the kids were good actors.
Oh, Rufio. I know him. I actually met him several times. Wow. He's a nice guy.
Cool. Yeah. I don't know. Everybody just does a really great job in that movie.
Yeah, that's good. It would have been my first honorable mention as well. I think Hook is amazing. Other honorable mentions, I just have one other. I just mentioned Maleficent. I think Maleficent's better than people give it credit for. So I really enjoy that performance in that movie. Did you guys have any other honorable mentions?
I had a lot, so I'll let you guys, or I'll let
Susan
go.
It's all you, Andrew. Go for it. List them out.
My first honorable mention was Willow. I adore Willow. Not the new show. Not the show. But the movie was really good. The movie was pretty much my childhood. Labyrinth with David Bowie. We mentioned Maleficent. Did anybody mention the original Sleeping Beauty? Because I love Sleeping Beauty. It's a great film. You mentioned Ferngully, the original Cinderella, Dark Crystal. I just love Jim Henson. He's just great. And then there was a movie. It's not a good movie, but it was a fun movie. There's a difference. Darkness Falls. It's just a horror film that.
I think I watched that.
If you're in the mood for like a '90s like bad horror film, it's a decent one that you can waste an hour and a half on.
Nice. Yeah. Well, there you go. Best ever movies with a fairy in them. We have wrapped that one up. So let's do it. Let's finish it off with some buried treasure, guys. What's that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Susan is our guest, so she will go last. Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
Gonna go with a comic book again. Todd McFarlane. He's one of my favorite authors and artists. He created Spawn, and one of his newest creations is a comic book called Haunt. I am thoroughly enjoying it. It is definitely in the wheelhouse if you like the Image comic art style, like hyper detailed, where they put a lot of their focus in the art style. It's really like their main thing over at Image Comics. Interesting story about two brothers. One of them dies, and whenever he combines his soul with his other brother, they become this superhero who can take on bad guys. It is a very graphically violent comic, but it is very interesting. I like it a lot.
All right, that'll be Haunt, Image Comics, where you can find that. My Buried Treasure is a fairly new comedy special. Nate Bargatze has a special out on Amazon. I think it came out in February, called Hello World. And I think probably the comedian that makes me laugh the most right now is
Really?
Nate Bargatze. Yeah.
Wow.
I there's something about his delivery that just slays me. So high recommend. And if you've never seen any of his stuff,
Me?
I recommend
Yeah, I
you
haven't.
do a full watch. Like, I recommend start in order with some of the old Netflix stuff. He has like 4-hour specials that are available streaming right now. Man, he is absolutely hilarious. You don't have
comparable?
to go in order, but you can. So to kind of follow his career. But what were you saying, Andrew?
Is there anyone comparable to him that you could say he's kind of like? Or is
No,
he's his own thing.
he's kind of his own thing. I mean, maybe you'll watch him and think of somebody else, and I would love to hear who he's like. I'm not the world's most, fluent in all the comedians, but as far as like the big ones that I can think of, he's very down home. Like he's kind of like just somebody you would hang out with, and he would just tell funny stories. But
like
yeah,
that.
my wife and I never laugh more than when we watch a new Bargatze special.
Wow,
Okay.
that's high praise.
So yeah, check them all out. But anyways, the latest one's called Hello World, and it's on Prime. He has a couple on Netflix, maybe even one on Hulu. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. But
All right.
Susan, what's your buried treasure?
Mine, just last Sunday, I binge watched the first 3 episodes of Fatal Attraction on Paramount Plus. It stars Joshua Jackson and Lizzie Kaplan. And I really enjoyed it. I was so bummed that they didn't pull like a Netflix and just release them all, that I decided to rewatch the original movie just because I needed like a fix of that. And I actually think, the original is great, but I like things that I know a lot of people are hesitant, like, why are we doing a mini series over this? But after watching the movie and seeing how quickly Michael Douglas just like cheats on his wife God, there was like she didn't really have to do much. Like his wife went away for a weekend and he was like, you know what? I need to get laid. And he just went for it. And then at least in this show, there's more of like a buildup. There's more reasoning why he does. Shouldn't cheat regardless, but I guess I could understand a little bit more in the series. And the series also does something great in episode 3 where they show it from Alex, the girl who is whatever goes nuts. So her perspective, which I think was really great. It humanizes her. At least you have a better understanding, because in the film they don't really have a reason for why Glenn Close is like crazy. It's just like, oh, you're a deranged woman, and at least there's a little bit more understanding in the series. So I'm enjoying it. I have heard it's not going to end very well, so I'm a little worried about that, but I'm into it right now.
All right.
Everybody realized we talked about 3 Glenn Close movies today?
Did we?
Yeah. Fatal Attraction, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Hook.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What was she in Guardians of the Galaxy?
In the first one, she was Nova Prime. She ran the Nova Corps.
Oh, totally forgot.
Yep.
Well, we did it, guys. We did a Glenn Close podcast.
Yeah.
That would be Fatal Attraction on Paramount Plus, Hello World on Prime, and Haunt on Image Comics, if you want to check out the buried treasures. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
And thank you to Susan Kamyab Stevens. Susan, tell us again where people can find your stuff.
You can find me at thischicksflix.com or on social at thischicksflix. And then I always say you can Google me. It's pretty easy there.
All right. That is This Chicks Flicks with an X. Chicks and Flicks both have an X at the end, so you can check her out there. Much love and gratitude to our Sif Pop members as well for giving monthly to make Sif Pop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month, and you can check out all the fun stuff at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. You can also email us, feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than cautiously tossing a monkey towards someone's face. We will be back next week with more movies to review, and we will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. We've got some Sif spoil to record real quick, so we're gonna say goodbye to the live chat as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Mike J. Bourgeois, Weta, Stewart, Saclego. Glad to see you guys hanging out and chatting in the chat, and really appreciate you. So we'll catch you on the next one.